Welcome to San Antonio's Influence Magazine show, the premier talk show where we introduce you to influential individuals doing significant work in the city of San Antonio and surrounding areas. Celebrate the spirit of business, leadership, and innovation. If this is your first time joining us and you'd like more information, you could find us at influencesa.com. That's influencesa.com. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and for this particular episode of the show, all future and past episodes of the show, pull up your YouTube search bar, toss in San Antonio's Influence Magazine show. When you get there, please subscribe, give us a like or a thumbs up, and hit that bell so that you don't miss any future episodes of the show. Welcome to today's show, folks. I'm your host, Cedric Fisher. Sight. Take a look at this book. Very compelling read, new novel by Alexandria Clarimond. Let me just read the dedication for you. This story is dedicated to all the people living in this world who are confronting the challenges of living with degenerative retinal disease. The author is here to talk about the book and tell us her story about being legally blind. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Alexandria.
I spent 7 decades looking at the world through perfect eyes, but I never truly saw anything until the darkness came. They called it vision loss. I called it the beginning of sight.
What if losing your sight meant finally learning to see? At 81, Alora waits in darkness, remembering 7 decades of light. From a Texas farm where lightning nearly claimed her infant life, to breaking barriers as one of the first female battalion commanders in military history. From cross-country adventures with her beloved car, Lady Blue, to 12 years caring for the love of her life through terminal illness. 7 times, vision left her. 7 times, something else arrived. Lucky pennies appearing in impossible places. Feathers floating where no birds fly. Songs playing when no music should exist. As macular degeneration slowly steals her physical sight, Ellie discovers truths that eyes could never reveal. That love transcends death. That strength grows through surrender. That the clearest vision comes from within. Now, confined to a government facility for the blind in dystopian America, facing one final procedure, Ellie must answer the ultimate question. Is this ending or beginning? Death or transcendence? Darkness or the first real light she's ever seen? Sight by Alexandria Clarimond. Some journeys can only be seen with closed eyes. Available now from Cedric D. Fisher and Company Publishers.
First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You've written a great novel here. Tell us about your background.
Well, for the first 18 years of my life, I lived in a small little town in northeast Texas. I grew up there, I went to school there, and I liked school. I made good grades, and because of that, I was able to get a scholarship to college. And with that and a student loan, which a lot of students have to do, and working, I managed to get a college degree. I got a master's degree in 5 years. I pushed myself. And I majored in biology and chemistry. I had a double major. And I did that because my favorite high school teacher was my biology chemistry teacher, and she really encouraged me to go into the sciences. So I did. And after I received my diploma, then I taught school for 5 years. And back then it was called junior high, now it's called middle school. And I taught science, different types of science. And At the end of 5 years, this was in 1975, my world seemed to fall apart at that time. I was getting a divorce from my high school sweetheart, and I was crushed. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself, but I knew I had a steady job with teaching if I wanted it, but I wasn't too sure I wanted to do that. I couldn't really afford to support myself on a teacher's salary in Texas anyway, so I said, okay, I'm going to see what I can find. At that time, Department of Defense was actively recruiting women to join the different military services, to incorporate them into the Army. I went into the Army and to the different branches of the Army, instead of staying strictly with the WACs, the Women's Army Corps, which existed after World War II. And it still was in existence in 1975, but they were going to do away with it. And they wanted women to come in, but they wanted them to go to the different fields, like transportation or medical or finance, or, you know, different fields where they couldn't go before. So I decided to give the Army a try because they offered me the best deal.
Okay, so you looked at the other branches?
I did. I looked at every branch.
Okay.
And I decided on the Army because they were going to give me the best deal. I could go in at a higher rank because of my age and my work experience and my education. So I went in with a direct commission as a first lieutenant. And then I went to, at that time it's called Women's Officer Orientation Course in Alabama, Anniston, Alabama. Then after that, I went to my branch certification school. While we were in basic, we could choose, or we submitted our top 3 choices for what branch we wanted to go into. And I submitted mine 3 choices, and I got the one I didn't really want. But anyway, so I went into the Ordnance Corps, and they specialize in maintenance, ammunition, missiles, a gamut of things. I mean, it's very important. And I was glad that happened. It happened for a good reason. So anyway, so then after I was branch certified, then my first assignment was in California, and I was in San Francisco. It was a wonderful assignment. The next one I went to my advanced course. They sent me back to California. Excuse me. And that is where I met my second husband in Monterey at Fort Ord. And so there was a reason for me to go back to California. I really didn't want to go. I wanted to go to Germany, but they sent me back to California. So it all worked out.
Yeah.
So
it's a beautiful country out there.
It is. It is.
Carmel and
yeah.
Monterey, sure.
Well, from California, went to Germany. After Germany was the Pentagon. Then I went back to Germany, and then I came back to the Pentagon, and various schools in between tours and stuff. Then when I had 17 years in service, my husband was diagnosed with bone marrow cancer, and they gave him a very short time to live. So I said, I can't support the Army the way it wants me to and take care of him. So I retired at 20 years. And after retirement, then I took care of him, and I worked for a while for the Army as a civilian. And then when he passed away, I just retired and started volunteering work, and that's what I did. And as far as my writing, I've never really even thought of being a writer, but I had a couple of friends who said, "You've had such an interesting life. Why don't you write about it?"
Okay.
I said, I don't know. So I started this book about 7 years ago, and I'd work on it for a while, and it didn't, I wasn't inspired. So I tried that 3 or 4 times. But this past January, my spiritual guide told me it's time to write the book.
Time to write your book.
So I wrote it. In about 3 to 4 months, I wrote it, and I knocked it out.
Okay.
So that's my life. And I really I wasn't trained to be a writer, although I had a high school teacher that encouraged me to go into journalism, but I chose science instead. And I won a couple of essay contests through my life. And in the military, I wrote a lot, speeches for generals, but that's military writing. It's not creative writing. It's a whole new language, which was something I had to get used to. So anyway, I just thought I'd give it a shot. And see, I didn't want to tell my life story. I wanted, there's things that have happened to my life, during my life, that I wanted to express, ideas and thoughts. So that's my background.
And the name of the book is Sight. What takeaway do you want the readers to get from the book?
There's hardly anybody that goes through life without some sort of adversity happening to them. And my advice would be to respond to it instead of react to it. And just be grateful for what you have, and don't dwell on the bad stuff, because it's going to continue, and don't get bogged down in it. We are all conditioned as we grow up, our families, schools, our peers, society, we're all conditioned. But think about, maybe there's a different way of looking at things, of thinking about things. That will open up a whole new world for you. Don't get stuck in the same old thought patterns. There's a new way there's a different way to look at things.
To see things.
To see things.
Okay.
I remember when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and the doctor said, "Do not let this cancer be your life." And I thought, okay, I hear the words, but it's going to be hard to do. And I was thinking this, I didn't expound on it. So when I knew I was going blind, I'm not blind, I just have a retina condition, which means I don't have central vision.
Macular degeneration.
Macular degeneration, yes. It's when you lose your central vision, which is responsible for details like reading, writing, driving, those things. I still have, in my right eye, I'm legally blind. But I have great peripheral vision, which helps. And I still have some vision in my left eye, which assists with the lack of it in the right eye. So I'm managing okay. I still manage to drive, although I'm very apprehensive about it and very careful about where I go. But I'm legally, the eye in my left eye is getting worse. I just don't know, it's a slow degenerative disease.
Okay. How do you define clarity? And then how has that definition changed the course of your life?
Clarity to me is trust that God is directing my path. And I really didn't discover that until about 20 years ago. And that was right after my husband died. And the grieving process for me just ripped me to the core. It's like rebooting a computer. I just started all over. And that's when I became open and exposed to other things, other ideas, other thoughts. And I met people in my life that, if in the book it talks about, when you are ready, a teacher will be provided for you. And I had 2 teachers in the first retirement community I lived in. So that's clarity to me, is God has a plan and He's directing me.
In the book you talk about losing your sight doesn't mean losing your life. What part in your journey did you kind of accept that truth?
When I wrote this book, I mean, it took a long time. It was very hard and tedious to write. Even if I get to the point where I have no vision, no central vision in either eye, if I want to continue writing, I can always record and get people to transcribe it for me.
Sure you can.
So if there's a will, there's a way. So I don't have any plans. I'm taking each day as it comes. The future doesn't exist. Past is over. It's now. So whatever happens, happens.
So Sight features a military woman battalion commander in the 1970s, and you called her Ellie. What in Ellie's military experience mirrors yours, and what barriers did you face?
Well, Ellie was a battalion commander in the 90s. She came into the Army in the mid-70s.
Okay.
But you don't jump right into being a battalion commander. It took years. So it was in the early 90s where she commanded a battalion, and her career is very similar to mine.
So that was after a 20-year career, progressive career that started at the bottom. And
Yeah, oh yeah. You start at the bottom and then you go work your way up if you get good report cards.
I think we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Alexandria Clarimond.
We are always trying to fix something, but we must start with forgiving. We must begin to open our hearts and follow God. We also must learn to forget, because if you don't forget, then you haven't forgiven.
Presented by Cedric D. Fisher and Company Publishers. What if the path to healing your deepest wounds began with a single, powerful choice? To forgive. In The Blessings of Forgiveness, Blaise Labbe takes us on an extraordinary journey from the struggles of a childhood marked by colorism, racism, and family secrets, to finding hope, redemption, and the courage to heal. Blaise's story is one of resilience, of rising above the pain of a fractured family and systemic prejudice. His journey takes him from a small Louisiana neighborhood to the heights of success as a journalist and leader, but it's the lessons learned along the way that define him. Blaise discovered that forgiveness was not just a gift to others, but a pathway to his own freedom. This memoir is a message of hope for anyone seeking healing from their own struggles. Blaise's reflections on race, faith, and the enduring power of love remind us all that the hardest roads often lead to the most beautiful destinations. The Blessings of Forgiveness by Blaise Labbe. Available now wherever books are sold.
Alexandria, share with us some of the challenges and difficulties you faced, obstacles that you faced as a woman in the military.
Well, of course, there was always the discrimination on the part of senior male officers who would be rating me. And I don't blame them for how they feel, because we talked about conditioning earlier. That's how they're conditioned. They don't think that women should be in the military, period. So that meant that I had to work a little bit harder to prove that I could do the job, and it usually worked out okay. But I must say that there were more male superiors who accepted me than did not. And they gave me opportunities to succeed. And that kept me going. Now, there were some jerks out there, but it's the good ones that made it worthwhile. And I don't know how it is these days with women. I mean, in the military. When I came into the military, there were no offices or venues where we could go and complain. There was no sexual harassment or equal opportunity offices. We just had to handle situations on our own, you know. Through the years, as more women came in, they established sexual harassment complaint offices and equal opportunity offices and so on and so on. So I'm just glad that I had the opportunity to be a pioneer to hopefully make it easier for women now.
Were you helpful in pioneering some of the offices you just discussed, sexual harassment and?
Not really, not really.
Didn't pay attention to that, just kind of did your work.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't have time for that stuff. I mean, I just kind of, I was not much of a complainer. I spoke my mind, but when 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 there were situations where I thought that I was being discriminated against or not treated fairly, I just kind of kept working, and it all worked out. It just worked its way out.
Times have changed.
Yes.
For women, politically, I would say, without addressing kind of some of the current things that are going on. Do you see today being easier for women or more difficult in the military?
Well, now that there's a new Secretary of War, I have no idea what the environment is like, because he keeps referring to standards must be the same for women in combat units. But, unless they've changed the definition of combat units, then I don't know what he's talking about, because back in the day, women could not go to combat arms units anyway. But women could go into combat support units, like I was in. So is he asking that women in combat support and combat service support units comply with the same standards as the men do in the combat arms, such as armor and infantry and special forces? I don't know. That's never been explained. So I don't know really what the situation is right now under the new Secretary of War.
But it's changed from when you were there.
But I tend to agree with him in that if they allow women to the infantry or armor or field artillery, then they should have to meet the same standards that the men do. But in a combat service support or combat support unit, I'm not too sure that that's necessarily true. And I don't know. I've never seen anything in writing as to what his policies are. So I don't know what the situation really is now.
So the book contains 7 sight loss events. Can you describe one real moment when physical vision loss led to an unexpected change or insight or some clarity that you may have experienced?
I guess it would be that when my retina specialist told me that I was legally blind in my right eye. I knew that I wouldn't be able to read if with that eye, but I still had something left in the left eye. So I knew that God was directing me towards something, and He's allowing me to still see to some extent. And I'm okay with that. So, I just kind of take it day at a time.
Can you recall a moment during your time serving that really changed your view of the world, or your?
I think that yes. I had one particular assignment in the Pentagon where I was as a research and development assignment, and I worked a lot with some of our allies. And I remember once there was a meeting. It wasn't a large group, but it was a small group of people, maybe 10, 15 people. We were trying to hash out some technical issues, and the allies were there, and we were there, and we couldn't get anything done. We were spinning our wheels, and all of a sudden, it was like a gear kicked in, and my old school teaching days came up. I got up and went to the drive board and I just started facilitating the meeting. So I thought, okay, way back when I've learned this skill, and it's profiting me now to do something in this day and age with foreigners that I don't even know. It's all new to me. So I guess that was when I was exposed to old skills can come in handy for new opportunities.
So you were able to reach back and some things
I did. It was like, and the minute I did that, things started happening. They could see ideas written down, and I would kind of present them in some sort of order or logic, and things began to work out. So what you acquire may pay off later. You never know.
Good Lord gave it to you for a
That's
purpose.
true. That's true.
And it'll reveal itself
That's
at some
true.
point.
Yeah.
So you chose to write the book using a pseudonym. Was there a time along your journey that you decided it was important to write the book even if it wasn't in your own name?
Well, I really didn't decide to write the book. It was decided for me. And I didn't...
You mean spiritually?
Yes.
Decided
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you were just following.
It was time to write.
Divine
It was
guidance.
time to write the book.
Sure.
And I didn't care what name went on it. I could care less if my name was on it or not. But I chose the pseudonym because the names mean something. Alexandria means helper of mankind, and Clarimond means sight protector. So those two just kind of, I don't know, popped out at me as to kind of reinforce the theme of the book, sight.
Okay. While you were writing the book, you of course had the vision loss. So how did you manage that process? Was there special equipment or?
Well, I have the largest computer monitor Apple makes. It's a 27-inch.
27-inch.
So that helps. And of course, spell check with writing.
Sure.
But it's a very tedious process because I get letters mixed up. Sometimes when I read, and I have to, about after an hour of working at the computer, I have to take a break and rest. And after a day of working at this on and off, I have a terrible headache. So it's just slow and it's cumbersome.
Large font type.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What would you tell someone who received a diagnosis for macular degeneration?
I would tell them to continue their treatment with their retina specialist and take the injections, and that be hopeful because there's research ongoing all the time. So you never know what's going to happen. I mean, they're doing stem cell research, they're doing nanotechnology research for eye diseases and macular degeneration specifically. So you never know when there's going to be a breakthrough in this, and I do believe one day there will be, and that's why I'm a firm believer in contributing to those institutes which do research for macular degeneration.
When you were first diagnosed initially, did you sort of feel like life was over as you knew it? And
Oh, it was over as I knew it.
okay. But it wasn't.
But I had to adapt. I mean, I just had to change the way that I did things, you know.
Yeah.
For example, going out to eat at a restaurant. I can't read the menus hardly. And for one thing, the restaurants are usually so dark, you know, and I need light to see. So I would always check the menus before I went to the restaurant, and I always knew what I wanted before I went in because I just read the menu. You have to, you adapt. You just look for ways to make life easier for you.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So you go online and read the menu before you even show up at the location.
Yes, and I choose I select what I want before I go, because it's just it's kind of cumbersome to get the menu. You have to get my cell phone out, turn on the light, and read, and then it's just so I just do it ahead of time. And you do things like that, you just find ways to adapt.
Yeah. Okay. So once you have accepted that this is your new lot in life, you make the adjustments and keep going. Yeah. Of course, that can sometimes be more challenging for some versus others.
Well, and I don't drive at night anymore for sure, and I rarely drive during the day, but night driving is no way I would drive at night. It's just so, there's just things that you learn to live without. You just make changes.
This is a question we ask all the leaders that we have the privilege of interviewing on the show. All leaders are readers, and they typically will have a go-to book that's found on their nightstand. What book's on your nightstand?
A Course in Miracles.
Course in Miracles.
You never heard of it, have you?
I haven't. Can't say I have. Who's the author?
We'll talk about this later.
Okay. Last question. What's the one thing that folks who know you don't know about you but should?
I think one thing that I would like for people to know, that I'm a truly compassionate person. That compassionate to me does not necessarily mean grandiose deeds. It can be something as simple as holding the door open for somebody in a wheelchair, or helping someone that can't walk sit down. I mean, guide them to a chair. Just, to me, that's compassion. And I welcome opportunities to express help in those situations. And I remember one time I was in a medical appointment, and I go to a lot of those these days. And there was this elderly gentleman. He had to be older than me, and that's saying something. But he was by himself, and he was kind of staggering and walking along with the cane. And he walked up to the window to get checked in and all that. And then he turned around, and he stopped. And he was kind of looking around, and I got up, and I said, "Can I help you?" He said, "Yes." So I got him to sit beside me. And then when they called his name, I said, "Is that you?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, let's go." Well, by that time, I think word had gotten out. So one of the medical assistants came and took him back. But I enjoy doing that. You know, if more people would do those sorts of things, there's so many opportunities to show compassion. It would just, it's mind-boggling, really.
Small acts of kindness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
and there's opportunities everywhere you look.
Exactly. So I guess people probably don't think about that, but I think that I would like to be remembered for being a compassionate person.
Yeah. Where can folks find this book if they want to go looking for it?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, a lot of places.
Sight by Alexandria Clarimond. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll see you all next time.